We have seen once again a federal judge come in and say, hey, you cannot defund Planned Parenthood. And of course, this is on the heels of the big, beautiful bill passing, which one of those is having Planned Parenthood defunded for 1 year.
July 4th, this bill gets signed into law. By Monday, the first working day since the holiday.
What do you think it happened?
They go to Massachusetts. They find the judge, Obama appointee, not surprisingly.
What the complaint filed by Planned Parenthood did was, one, it was a clever move by them in light of the Trump v. Casa opinion, where Justice Barrett was essentially saying you can only offer relief to the plaintiffs before you. So what did Planned Parenthood do? Instead of just suing as the Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts, which is listed as a plaintiff, also the lead plaintiff is Planned Parenthood Federation for America on behalf of itself and all 47 of its members. So they brought together, created like a mini class because they're an affiliate organization. So they came on behalf of the entire organization in almost all 50 states and said, we need this relief.
How can they go into court and say, we must get federal funding? It just doesn't make sense to me. They are a private organization. If the government decides to fund private organization, you elect the government, that's one thing. On the other hand, if the government decides not to say you could go into court and say we must, but they have a lot of allies, a lot of friends.
They forum shopped. They went to Massachusetts, which it appears that in Massachusetts, if you're pro-life, you're going to be silenced by the government. But if you're pro-abortion, the government must pay your bills. And we're looking at this, and they're alleging 3 issues that they want relief on, and basically the blocking of this portion, Section 71-113 of the big, beautiful bill, that says they want vindicate their rights secured by the Constitution's Bill of Attainder Clause by the First and Fifth Amendments to the United States Constitution. So they're basically saying we're being punished without a trial by looking at this Bill of Attainder Clause, as well as First Amendment. They're saying because we believe in the rights of abortion, we're being punished, and that's a violation of our rights. And the Fifth Amendment of equal protection, they went very broad here, yes. And they found a judge that was friendly to this entire cause of theirs to give them this TRO. We know there's 2 weeks before an injunction hearing, but this is basically where we stand.
Long term, this is a losing court battle for Planned Parenthood, but as we explained yesterday, they're just trying to survive the next really 8-9 months. Yeah. And if you can do that, the funding's not going to get cut, and then it's got to go through legislation again. And so you've survived another year. You've lived to, fight that battle out in Congress. And like I said yesterday, if we don't stand up behind these members of Congress strongly who did this, and I mean, it took them going down to the final vote in the Senate. It took, J.D. Vance going to cast that 51st vote. Yeah. Yes. It's because of issues like this that don't get as much attention necessarily running up to it. This is grasping, like you said. They're going through their history. They're going through the right to abortion, except for the court found that there isn't a federally protected right to abortion. That issue would go back to the states. They go state to state and issue to issue. With the court just last week said that you could defund at the state level via Medicaid. So ultimately here, is it a winning battle for them in court? No. This is all an issue of timing. But I think we have to, and we are at the ACLJ taking action, but I do want just people to understand how important it is that we stand up on this issue strongly. And don't get discouraged. Think about how many years we've talked about getting a defunding bill onto the desk of a president who said they would sign it. And it was impossible to get it there. We've actually gotten it there now. Planned Parenthood is not going to give up. They're going to fight back. They want their $500 million. So we have to be ready to take a stand. And you cannot be discouraged. We've had major victories. So this is the time to double down in court. Court has been actually pretty friendly, ultimately long-term, to the pro-life movement, especially in the last 5-6 years. So let's keep that pressure up.
The Supreme Court a week and a half ago now in the Medina versus Planned Parenthood case ruled that South Carolina could exclude Planned Parenthood from their providers in Medicaid. And obviously, when you look at that, that's the big takeaway. But when you look at that in light of this, it's really fascinating because Justice Gorsuch wrote that opinion. And it was all about the spending power of Congress, because the bigger picture was that he was saying that individuals could not sue the state to force Planned Parenthood back into their Medicaid program, because that's not the remedy under the spending power, that there's a contract under the spending power between the state and federal government with Medicaid. This isn't an enumerated right of Congress. It's an inferred right, the spending power under general welfare clause and things of that nature. So it's curious to me as I read the complaint by Planned Parenthood in light of Medina, where the Supreme Court said you can't just sue the state and get your right back here, that they bring up the defund provision is a naked attempt to leverage the government's spending power to attack and penalize Planned Parenthood and impermissibly single it out for unfavorable treatment. Justice Gorsuch, in his opinion, even said that the spending power in and of itself creates benefits for some parties and not for others. Yep. It doesn't necessarily, unless enumerated, create a right for someone to receive this money.
Think of them as like a government contractor, right? So they were bidding to say, we're going to provide these services, so then reimburse us through these programs, and we'll be part of the larger Medicaid program. Do you think that every other company that goes before that just gets a green light? You know, you propose a new jet to the U.S. government. Do they have to go ahead with your production of your jet? No. So this idea that they are entitled to this, that they must now.
The idea of being entitled to any sort of government funding is
Medicaid
pretty ridiculous.
Itself, Congress could go right now.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no constitutional right to getting Medicaid. You can't unfairly say, well, this person. Well, first of all, there are rules on it. You can't. Congress can go and say, this is going to be the threshold. This is the income level. This is going to change this year. This is going to expand this year. We're actually going to cut it back this year. And there's all those talks, right? If you could do that to the individuals actually receiving the benefit and to the taxpayers who are paying for the program, these private companies who come before it should be able to be excluded at any time by an act of Congress, certainly, signed by the president. I mean, so listen, it's a losing battle for Planned Parenthood unless they can run out the clock. And if we don't support these members of Congress and the president who signs this into law and actually give them the credit that they deserve to fighting on to taking it down to the final vote in the Senate, when if they were to remove this provision, it would have been that much easier to pass it.